Hello. Let me make sure I shared this out on all of the social medias and we'll get started in just a second. All right, here we go. We are streaming again. It's been a little while. Kind of had some personal stuff going on. Couldn't really get the streaming set up the way I wanted to. We've got some improvements in terms of some of the camera angles that I can switch to. Trying to get the audio sorted out. Like I know a lot of people use these DJI mics, but somehow in the whole kind of audio stream I've got set up, they don't come out sounding the best. So we're gonna make do with today, and the plan is to continue on this guy. This is the Fysetc Voron V0.2r1. I think it's their Pro V1.2 kit. This was provided by Fysetc for the purpose of kind of streaming and possibly making two other now V0.2s and sharing that experience with you guys. Hopefully it'll allow some people to see kind of what some of the differences are between this kit, the LDO kit, and the FormBot kit, which I had already built. But otherwise, I just like building these things, and you know, it's an excuse to hop online and do the builds with a group of folks, and hopefully some folks will pop into the chat. We've gotten through most of the electronics, really. Let's see which is the best camera. So all the electronics are looking pretty good in there. This board, the Catalyst board, is pretty sweet. I like it quite a bit in terms of just having everything nice and clean in this electronics bay. You know, having really short runs of the AB motors there, like the printhead coming straight out of the board and not having like an extra daughter board up here or a frame board like some of the umbilicals have. The little pass-throughs for the USB and the Ethernet. I think in the config you have to use this Ethernet in order to get things set up. So I do have a hard line moved over here, so hopefully things will work well in that regards. As you guys flow into the chat, please feel free to hop in the chat and let me know how things sound. Is the audio clear? Is the stream coming through? I've got 0 drop frames so far, and the frame rate or the bit rate looks pretty good. Going DH, welcome to the stream. Thanks for hopping in. The V0 is so cute and little. Yeah, this is my third kit that I'm building of the V0. I love this little printer. The two I already have are from LDO and from FormBot, and they're powerhouses. This one was built or printed on the LDO printer, so I'm loving these little printers. It's really cool to see how I do have some gain I can play with. And then it's also got a limiter on there. Let me. Is that any better? Check, 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 check. Mic check, any better, any better? Let me know and I can make a couple more adjustments. Not any better? Where can I change the gain that will actually make a difference? Appreciate the feedback. A little better, okay. I can do it at the source a little bit. Add a little bit more gain here. How's that? I'm worried about it clipping though. I think my setup is just a little bit too involved. I need to kind of simplify things a little bit. And advanced properties. Let me know if that sounds any better. And I've got it maxed out on my mixer. Got it maxed out almost in OBS before it starts clipping. But the goal for today is to just continue the build. I'd like to get into the config and see if we can, you know, get the printer. Yeah, that's good. Good to hear. Hopefully the quality doesn't suffer too much from Open the Gain, but we'll see. I'll have to listen back to it, and I really need to do my audio kind of over again, to be honest. So I kind of wanted to start off by double checking the electronics. Fysetc does provide this pretty snazzy wiring guide, which seems to be pretty up to date. So let's go through and just make sure everything seems to be wired well. Flip it down on its front. After that, I think we'll do the display. Hey, Steve. Thanks for hopping in. Hopefully, if you can steer me right if I go wrong with this. I did actually just rewatch the video, the stream that you did, where you did your config and your wiring. So I think I've double checked everything. I haven't gone ahead and disconnected the yellow wires on the print head yet. I know that that's something that you ended up doing, but I figured I'd kind of redocument. You did send me the side braces. I'm having trouble with my meshed skirts though. I'm gonna have to reprint this meshed skirt and get rid of some of the mesh, or I might be able to cut it out. Where are those braces? I have them printed out, but the way that they attach, do you know what I mean? Yeah, just cut it out. Okay, I'll get that done. But I think like the wiring in this is so simple and straightforward for the most part. It's something I think that they've done pretty well in terms of this build. Oh no, I wanted to go here and then do the picture-in-picture of that. There we go. Yeah, it's really, really straightforward. I don't have a... Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You'd have to cut it. Okay. I can do that off stream. And then, yeah, I do worry about this. So Steve has some standoff braces that make it so that you have more than just these two screws to help hold this in place. If you're going to be plugging stuff in and out of this, I can imagine like just putting too much torque on this. You can actually kind of hear it and see it creak a little bit. So he's got two braces that you can print out. So I need to cut out like two little patches of this mesh in order to be able to mount those. But yeah, we've got like the Z motor, the thermistor for the bed, Z in-stop, Z motor, done the pull test on our power. We've got the little fan over here. I think it might be better for the fan to blow straight up on everything so that it goes through these fins and not just hits this front fin and then kind of creates turbulent air everywhere. So I might end up moving this. This is where they suggested to put it, but I think, I don't know, in my head it seems like it would be better down here. It's just a little crowded, and on the other V0s they have it mounted down here and it's hard to put in some of these USB cables. So we'll see what I end up doing. But I think everything is in pretty good order, and maybe we can move on to doing the V0 display now. Pretty sure you put it low. That makes sense. Like with all the heat sinks going in that direction, well, these kind of go in both for the stepper drivers, but it just seems to make sense to go that way for me. And then I know you guys made some changes to the fan configuration as well that I might want to duplicate. So the display, I printed out some multicolor, kind of did this the old school basic way, and just did some color changes and pauses. And yeah, let me bring up the manual. And turn that on so you guys can see what page we're on. We're way down there. I think we're just past the electronics and wiring. We got the back panel on, electronics mounted, obviously much more simple with this build. Our wiring is in there. I've done pull tests on pretty much everything. And then I'll probably do what Steve did and disconnect the 24 volts up to the board, and just to make sure that we're reading 24 volts always a good option to make sure you're not going to accidentally blow up your printer. We're on 115 volts on the PSU. I already double checked that, and I think it came that way. Kind of one of those things where you don't stream for a while, you stop a build or pause a build, and then you got to start it back up. They do have a note about using this PSU cover. It's a standard LRS-150, so I think this just snaps on over top, which is nice but I guess if I want to test the voltage on that, well, don't want to cover that up. So PSU is mounted, and we would be doing the skirts last time. I got one of those put on. The other one either fell out or I didn't have it printed. Oh, here it is. I'll probably end up doing the Rainbow Barf skirt mod on this. I think, is it Maple Leaf Makers that put that out? It's not functional whatsoever. It's just some extra LEDs to throw on the print. I had some minor extrusion issues on this. Maybe that's why I didn't put it in last time. But I'm gonna pop those out anyway and replace it with the Rainbow Barfs. And then I think the display is the next step. So this is a slightly different V0 display, or it's a simple V0 display. The one that comes in a lot of the other kits runs off a USB, and this one runs off one of these little cables, ribbon cables. So I think this was maybe the first one or the more simple one. I'm sure Steve would know, but it looks like we just mount that down. There's an LED diffuser. Where did I put that? And did I print it? It wouldn't be a Voron build if I didn't not print one thing. Or at least one thing. If that's not printed, I'm not going to fuss about it too much. I will undo things off stream and go do it again. Oh, this actually came later, the simple version. It's a Fysetc Special. There's a different simple display that came after the STM32 powered one. Hey, Projects and Dad's Garage, welcome. There's an RP2040 version of almost everything, I feel like. It's just such a useful little MCU. It seems like there's, I know Big Tree Tech is starting to use them, and a lot of their tool heads, they have an RP2040 version of several of those. We're kind of spoiled for MCUs and a lot of stuff like that these days. I will go back and put the diffuser and put it in, so it will diffuse that a little bit better. I think we just need some self-tapping screws, and I'm going to start recording on all of the devices. Boom and boom. Hey Feder, what's up? Welcome to the stream. I saw you started on a Prusa stream the other day. I wasn't able to hop in, but that's awesome. I feel like I remember printing this out, but I just don't know what I did with it. I prefer STM over RP2040. The 2040s has some sensitivity to temperature. Okay, wasn't aware of that. That would be bad for a print head if it has some issues with temperature. Tech Central, welcome to the stream. Thanks for hopping in. Been a minute. Yeah, Prusa always wanted one, just a little late. Yeah, I have a MK3S. I'm actually going to do a stream on that later. Going to put a Revo on it. I was changing out so I could print out some carbon fiber. So I got a hardened nozzle. And while I was trying to hot tighten it, I kind of just like torqued everything and unscrewed the heat brake. And I was like, screw it, I'm just going to put on a Revo. Can I ask questions about the V0.2 initial setup? Yeah, hopefully we'll get to it. So ask away. I know Steve is very knowledgeable about it. Fedder's built one of this kit. You know, I've built several, so hopefully we can answer your questions. And then maybe we'll get to it. This one has a unique setup with its board and image, so it might be a little bit different. Yeah, it looks like we use 2 self-tapping screws. You screw the mount on. Kind of like so. Yours can't connect to Wi-Fi. See you later, Project and Dad's Garage. I built one and it ended up working, but I'm working with a student to build one. I use a Raspberry Pi OS imager to put. So there's a lot of people who've had to troubleshoot this. If you go on the one source that I've typed out a really long response is on the Voron Discord. And if you bring that up and search for, go to the V0 questions channel and search for Wi-Fi, you'll see a lot of people problem solving it. My best solution is to hardwire it, and then the most straightforward solution is to hardwire it, get it connected SSH in via that IP address, go through manually do the Wi-Fi setup and the RSP Pi config type things, put in your SSID that way. Sometimes when you do the imaging through Raspberry Pi Imager or you do the Wi-Fi supplicant file, whatever happens, I'm not sure, but sometimes that just doesn't take. And numerous people have had issues with it. And there's a lot of people helping people problem solve it on the Voron Discord. But if you can move the printer over, at least temporarily, to somewhere where you've got a hardwired connection, just get in there, SSH in, or if you have a HDMI and a keyboard, you can also hook those up. Over my printer shelf, I've actually got a monitor mounted so that I can plug the HDMI out of that monitor into any of the Raspberry Pis from my printers, so I can troubleshoot that way. Trying to rewrite that Wi-Fi supplicant file, reflash things, I've seen people do it up to like 4 times. I think Taylor, Connect Creators, like had trouble with it as well. I'm not sure if it's the Raspberry Pi Imager or if it's something else, but quite a few people have had issues with it. So you're definitely not alone in that regard. I need a Phillips head screwdriver. You did it 5 times and it still didn't work. I think what might happen is like one of the first things that happens when you turn on the Pi for the first time is it like expands stuff and it takes that Wi-Fi supplicant file and kind of applies it. And I just think that sometimes something can go wrong in that process. And then it doesn't end up picking up your Wi-Fi and you have all of these issues such as what you're talking about. Put them hardwired and we can fix it later. Yeah, just to get started, it's probably the best bet. It's an actual Pi, right? Or is it a Big Tree Tech version, or is it a regular Pi, like a official Raspberry? Big Tree Tech. Okay, that has some of its own specific issues, but it's kind of the same thing. If you can get hardwired, generally that's going to be the best bet. There's a lot of Linux commands you can do if you can, bring up the the actual interface. The Fysetc catalyst board has issue 2, obviously different though since it's not a Pi, and they have a wiki on their GitHub. Yeah, I have their GitHub up here. I have heard people mention that for the Victory-Tech Pi, they have to have the antenna connected. It makes it seem like the antenna is optional, but I've heard a lot of people note that they couldn't get an IP address until they hooked up the antenna, and that helped a lot. There isn't, I don't think that there's a Raspberry Pi config for the Victory-Tech, so you have to do it a little bit more manually. But if you just look up like Linux how to connect to Wi-Fi via CLI, you should be able to get it figured out. I also have to take this off because I didn't take off the screen protector. So I'm going to have to go back in here anyway because that's going to look a little silly. So that should tilt up like that. We've got our knob, which I did a little bit of a multicolor too. Reset button is freed up. Hey, see you, Feder. Thanks for hopping in. Check out that Linux route. Yeah. With all of the things where you flash an image and you pre-configure the Wi-Fi in some type of a text file, something can happen, especially in that first boot where it's like expanding the volumes and doing all the first time configuration where it just doesn't apply stuff correctly. And I've seen a lot of people have issues with it. And then if you can just hardwire into it in SSH, hit that like button, y'all. It's easy. Yes, please hit the like button. Subscribe, all that. So we need to center the nuts. I kind of forgot what it was like to build a printer with not having the no drop nuts. And we need 3x6 flat. No, button head. I'm drunk. The downside is it's working great now. I don't know, it's an ender, so it's part of the experience, yeah. Although I did love my enders. They got me really big into 3D printing. I had a Monoprice Maker Select Plus was my first printer. Had some issues with that. Got it working better with a whole bunch of mods. Dropped the screw. And then the Ender came out, and I actually got mine through SaneSmart as opposed to directly from Creality. And SaneSmart does quite a bit of extra Q&A. Or QC, Q&A. Your first printer was the Monoprice Mini. I didn't end up getting one of those. I almost did. It's what? Kind of the same print volume as this guy, right? Like 120 millimeters. What am I doing, Brian? Helps if you face the thing you're trying to mount the right way. I don't know why I'm using this driver like this. That's not going well. Yeah, whoopsie. Sometimes talking and doing stuff and thinking all at the same time is kind of the hardest part of streaming, I find. Now we got started. Never happens to me, never. And then if you nudge the slightest bit, your alignment that you spent several minutes getting will come undone. I guess I could have, in terms of order of operations, put this in. It is keyed, so there's one particular direction it can go. And as far as I can tell, it kind of has to go directly over the PSU. I don't think there's enough run for it to kind of go sideways and around. Maybe it could have gone under if I had pre-planned it, but it's keyed. It has to go in that direction. I need to do a little bit of cable management down here with some zip ties after I'm kind of confident that everything's working relatively well. Down under Maker, welcome to the stream. I like your avatar. Is that a kangaroo? My friend did this kit last week, same issue. Good to know I'm not alone. Overall, still liking the kit. There's some finicky things, but a V0 is a pretty finicky build in terms of like small finicky things anyway. This doesn't have the USB to Raspberry Pi. It wants us to close things up, but I'm not going to put the bottom panel on. This back part we don't have to worry about. This I did reprint. This, the one that came in the kit, I took it out and then it was flexible enough for me to put back in by kind of just bending it a little bit and it snapped. But I actually went on the Fysetc Discord and talked to one of the admins on there, and he sent me a DXF file so that I could reprint one. So props to them in terms of that kind of customer service. And don't try to flex any of these panels because they will not flex. They will flex until they don't flex. Okay, so we are going to diverge in terms of what this wants us to do because we are going to do my filament runout sensor mod, the orbiter. So I've got this up on printables, and basically it takes the Irby upper rear Bowden inlet and it combines it with an orbiter filament runout sensor, which you can get pretty cheap for like $10, and that will make the filament run come in out of the spool into this upper rear portion up through the tool head and kind of skip the whole area that you can see running through the back of the printer. So I did this for my LDO build on stream, but figured it'd be fun to go over again. So it takes 2 heat set inserts there. We need to pop in the ball bearing. So I just kind of drop it in there and roll it around until it pops into its hole there, which is probably pretty hard to see. Then we slide the board here. I need to modify this. The clearance is not great in terms of this. I don't like how much I have to bend these. This connector is like one of those fan Molex connectors. It's kind of way too big. So I on my other build, I replaced that with the JST connector, but I'm just going to modify the file so that there's more room and people don't have to solder it. But you just have to make sure that the ball bearing is in there. And then press it down in. And again, you can see how not good that is, so I'm going to have to modify the files. So when the filament runs through the filament path, it will press that ball bearing and press the filament runout sensor. Then you've got a button here. The kit comes with this guy. It's a little light diffuser. You pop that into the side there. Might need some persuasion to get it to pop in there, and I slightly cracked my print, so I'll be reprinting this, and maybe I need to play with the tolerances. So then you pass this wire through the back of the upper rear Bowden inlet. It's kind of keyed, so this is the Bowden tube inlet, and it will slip onto that. You turn it over, and the rear plate will actually keep the PCB pushed in, so it won't come out. This little flange here was in the original model, and it was just too finicky to kind of print and get it so that it would actually hold there. So I kind of modified it to this it'll hold in the board there. Then there's some cable management back here, and we just need 2 M3 flathead screws. So what do we have? M3 by 8. My water bottle's in the way. Don't have very many of those in the kit. So I did go ahead and off stream, I reamed out the filament path through here just to make sure that a 1.75 millimeter or kind of 2-ish millimeter rod would go through it, and made sure that it was hitting the button well. So that's something you might want to do. I just didn't really like the filament path through the foot. Whoops. I like that they added a filament runout sensor, but I like the rear upper Bowden inlet because it just makes the filament path in terms of loading and unloading filament manually. It makes it a whole lot easier. So we need to get all these wires tucked in, and then I will probably end up repinning these wires as JST so that they will work with the catalyst board, but you can plug DuPonts into a JST connector for, you know, kind of temporary purposes. Oh yeah, sorry Steve. This is the orbiter, upper rear Bowden inlet orbiter filament runout sensor mod. Any preference on ordering from Fysetc or Ali? I don't have an affiliate through Fysetc or anything like that. I do have affiliates on AliExpress, but do whatever you can get the best best deal with, I'd say, personally. DuPont was a huge oversight, my friend mentioned too. Yeah. Let me get a flathead. DuPont is great for, you know, like Arduino breadboarding type stuff, but Since there's no locking mechanism on it, it's not the best long-term solution I found. Also don't like these ketchup and mustard rainbow colored wires, but ordering from Ali, they deal with tax, so there's no nasty surprises. Yeah. I don't know if prices are going to go up with tariffs, if they already have, how any of that's going to work out for kind of 3D printing in general. My understanding of tariffs, not to get at all political, it's just that the end user is going to end up paying for things, not the importer or the company. Correct, yeah. All right, so this guy will mount here. And then the cables will come directly into the back area, and they're so long, I guess because they don't know how people are going to use them. But I forget how high up this ends up getting mounted. And then a small run of Bowden will come out of here. There's a little bit of a kind of strain gauge slot for a zip tie to help hold the Bowden in there, and it's working great on my LDO kit. And then you can run a Bowden tube into this guy as well. So that'll go there. I like it. I can reach around the back of the printer, hit eject, which will run a macro that automatically heats up the extruder, and then after a certain amount of time, it'll back out the filament. Obviously, it won't back it out. You can only back it out to the gears, so then you have to pull it, but it makes that run that you have to pull so much less longer, and you can kind of have the spool here and go directly up into there. I like it a lot. I can do color changes really fast, and the macros work pretty well. But I guess we're not really doing that. I thought that was next. They have the PTF tube. We're going to get the printer moving and maybe do some ABS prints before we finish everything else. So I guess we're moving over to the Fysetc guide. Although I did kind of want to get this plugged in and check the 24 volts coming out of the PSU. I have no reason to doubt that this is, set up correctly and putting out good voltage, but it's usually better, safe than sorry. I'd rather test it rather than blowing up my board and having to wait for replacement parts. So we're going to disconnect the whole board and get these safely tucked away. I need to grab my multimeter, which is here. My little workbench behind me is terrible looking right now. This guy on, we want DC 200, and I've cooking show already got my cable plugged in. Some cat hair on it. I don't have a cat. We're on off. going to flip the switch to on. We have a little green light on the PSU. And we're going to check our 24 volts. We've got negative and then positive. And there's a little pot on here to adjust if need be, but I've never really had to. 24 volts exactly on that. I'm obscuring it. That's the main reason I haven't started streaming myself yet, tidying up, because I have some beta products I still need to finish write-ups for. Yeah, kind of obscuring stuff is a little bit of a secret of streaming. I think a lot of streamer setups are what I would call kind of mullet setups. Business in the front, clean-ish in the front, and a mess in the back. So we're going to power that off, unplug it. Since we know we're getting 24 volts, I'm actually going to see if this will discharge. Little green light still on. Usually it indicates, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, it's like right behind that trim pot. And it's fading out. The wiring on this kit is pretty good, I have to say. Everything's very well labeled. Everything's cut to a good length. Nothing's like super long where you end up having to tuck away a bunch of excess wire or re-crimping stuff, which can be annoying. And you forget how a ratcheting screwdriver works on stream. Genuine Meanwells have a discharge resistor, but will take up to 45 seconds. Yeah. Where did you find the rear skirt with the mesh back? I modified that. I don't think they had one available, and I don't think Steve used a mesh back. But I essentially went into Fusion 360, took a regular one, a regular backer, and then just cut out the area I didn't need essentially for this thing. That would be a good mod to put online, I guess. V negative and V plus. I do have the Erbiter. I'm not logged in, but I can probably just search for it. So I have it on there. I have it labeled as a work in progress. Hey, new members, thanks to Steve. I can't find my mouse right now. But thanks, Steve, for gifting memberships. Matt Stevens is a new member. Let's see. Got Ty Hill, Matt Stevens. Yeah, if you have the files for that, it would save some time. Okay. So anybody that is chatting here that didn't get a membership probably doesn't have it turned on in their YouTube preferences. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of videos and guides on how to sign up to accept, what do you call them? Gifted memberships. But these files are available online if you are interested in it. I'm looking for feedback. A few people have have made it, and they noted that they had some clearance issues, but I think I have the step files up there. So if you want to modify them in order to make them work for your purposes, you can add text or anything that you might want. You know, I added the text that says eject on the back, and then in the V0 kit, the LDL kit, I had everything with a halo theme, so I kind of made some of the emblems and logos look like halo-y stuff. But thank you. I appreciate the gifted membership, Steve. Anybody who did give a gifted membership, if you get a chance, shout out Steve, say thanks. It's kind of a great community we have with 3D printing streamers and communities and discords, and I always appreciate it. What do we need to do next? I guess we need to power it on with everything hooked up now. I'll do some final tug tests. Everything seems hooked up well. I do have Steve's little, this is a file that Steve made that helps you add a little bit of strain relief to the bottom of the Z-axis chain. I really like that. It's just good habits. It's not a huge deal on the V0 because it's only moving up and down pretty slowly while you're printing or homing. But I always like to kind of make sure I have some strain relief down here on the bottom. So he's got that file. And I've used it on all 3 of my V0s now. I still get nervous when I'm flipping this thing and I hear all those screws like sliding around. We need to add the Wi-Fi module, I believe, which is here. So this is how they handle Wi-Fi. I guess this is a ubiquitous enough where they have custom drivers for whatever brand this is. It's 802.11n, and you just plug it into one of your 2 USBs. And my display cable came undone. I might have bumped into it. I wonder if a little dab of hot glue might be helpful for that guy. I can find some way to get the cables managed a little bit better. Can't enable from iOS anymore. Can't enable what? Sorry if I missed something. Oh, I need to switch my cameras. Dang it. Off screen, I just plugged the Wi-Fi module into there. And I think we're good for an actual power on. Oh, accepting gifted memberships. That's interesting. There's always this fight between iOS and Apple and every company that wants to sell products on their platform. And iOS wants everything to go through their payment system so that they can skim a little bit off the top, I assume. And I think we can power this on. Hopefully with no magic blue smoke. Fans are spinning already. I think that is to do with the tachometer wires. And they're making this sound that's really, really annoying. I guess the next step is to plug this guy in and see if I can find him on the network. Oh, I didn't put in the SD card yet. That would be helpful. So that's this little guy. Well, that's not the best view. The lighting isn't great back here. I gotta figure something out for that. I believe this is pre-flashed. I hope this is pre-flashed, or else we're gonna have to open up Belina Etcher and wait about 10 minutes. After burning it, so maybe it is not. I might have to pause for a second and go get my card reader so that we can, let me download this. It's going to slow things down a little bit. This download going to start. Hey, we've got 0 drop frames today. I'm actually pretty happy about that. Actually, this download is going to take a little while. Computer's hardwired, so I assume GitHub's not serving things up really well. I'm going to go grab my card reader so we can hook this up to my PC and get it flashed. Be back in 1 second. Okay. You ever had one of those moments where you see something like an SD card adapter all the time, every single day, and then as soon as you need one, you can't find it? That's just what happened to me. I guess it'll tell me if this is pre-flashed when I plug it in. All the time. It's like, USB drive G is completely empty. I don't know why I thought that this was pre-flashed. Flash from file. What the heck was the name of this? It's in downloads. And it's called Update Voron. Is it? Missing partition table. Looks like it's not a bootable image. The image does not appear to contain a partition table. They did have two links here. One is to this guy. Download suspicious file from random Google Drive, please. See if this ends up saying the same thing. $16 GB card, that looks like it's going to be the right one. Just have to wait for the jiggle biggles to finish downloading. What are folks working on? I think I know what Steve's working when I watch the stream. The box turtle build seems to be going pretty well. Hopefully you can get into configuration and electronics. You've wired everything, but getting into configuration and all that stuff next stream. What about you down under maker, Ande Jacobs? What are you guys up to? Going DH? Any builds going on? Any fun projects? Flash from file. RK. Open. Same thing. The matrix assembly next, then configuration. Gotcha. Steve, do you recall running into any issues, or maybe you used Raspberry Pi Imager and it didn't say anything? There's two files listed here on, there's two links. Factory OS is here and it has two different links. They're named two different things. The file sizes look like they're slightly different. Both of them, Belina Etcher seems to have a... Let me see which one I think I would assume would be the better one to use. Oh wait, so maybe this one is an update file? And this is the factory OS? So I think the first one I downloaded, we'll try. Update version V0.2, open, continue, flash. The Filament looks pretty cool. Cutting on board the tool head. Was the Filament pretty heavily inspired by how Bamboo does cutting? I haven't looked at it in a little while. I know it's used for a lot of the, I'm sure, yeah, it seems likely. It's kind of amazing how much stuff has gone into, or how many different versions and permutations we have of the stealth burner now. There's the Nomi version, there's all different sorts of, there's Clockwork 2 and Clockwork and all different extruder internals. I guess that means that their design philosophy was pretty good, because they had the idea of having the cooling portion kind of modularly separated from the extruder so that you could pop in and do all of these different changes to it. But it still amazes me how much this community is able to kind of just build on each other and snowball and snowball and snowball. There's like a new project coming out every week. So this is going to take a little while. ETA 1 minute and 22 seconds. I don't think that's accurate. Gotta hydrate. Oh, it's just validating right now. So I mean, it finished. And it's just reading it back. And I mean, I was able to find mods to be able to put a stealth burner on my TiVo Tornado, which was kind of my first kind of toe dipping into the Voron ecosystem, and my first Klipper printer. I converted my TiVo, which I wasn't using very much. I used it a lot during the pandemic to print a lot of face masks and ear savers and all that stuff. And then I kind of just let it mothball for a little while. And then I was like, I want to, start using Klipper a little bit. So it became my little experimental printer. Finished, complete. Does it automatically eject, or do I need to? Oop. Ejected. So I do tend to use Boolean Picture over Raspberry Pi Imager. I don't know. I've just found that I've had a lot of issues with things like Wi-Fi working and some other stuff when I've used Raspberry Pi Imager. It might have been a specific build and they've corrected it, but sometimes when you just kind of get a little bit of a bad taste or experience, it causes you to kind of switch things up. We can plug in Ethernet. And on my phone, hopefully where you guys can't see, I'll bring up my network. Devices. It's not Imager, it's the image. Now everybody is moving to Network Manager, not DHCPD. It's all sorted out. Okay, interesting. Good to know. Was it just like the main cell image had something wrong with it? V0.2 Pro is already on the network. So I have mesh Wi-Fi, and I have one that is dedicated for me to be able to move around the house. I think I paid an extra 75 bucks for it. It's like a generation old, but it connects up to my mesh, and I literally have it just when I need to hardwire something. I will plug that mesh Wi-Fi router in near the device I need, take a hard wire, plug it into whatever device. I've got a switch over there, so I didn't have to do that. But if you're ever having trouble, you know, getting it to show up on Wi-Fi, hardwiring is just like the best method. Klipper screen preferred one method and main cell was doing the other, and now it's all in sync. Good to know. So they actually tell you what it should be called on your network. But I guess that image was the correct one. Next via Ethernet. I thought they told you what the URL you needed to go to was somewhere. V0 Voron 0 Pro Local. And voila. You guys can't see some stuff in the chat, but I think we're seeing the same kind of funky readings that Steve was. This is reading 85 degrees C on the toolhead board, and that's not good. So I think we'll go ahead and disconnect those yellow wires like Steve did. The, what are they called? The tachometer wires. On the toolhead boards, because they just don't seem to work correctly. And let me switch back cameras. You guys can see what I'm doing. So my assumption is that with these all-in-one boards, they're just using a serial connection that's, you know, hardwired in the PCB between the MCU and the single board computer. Like the the Manta Mellow has a board that has the 2-in-1. I've been told you can add a small resistor between the tachometer and ground pins. Interesting. So what's the fault in their wiring then? Like they just need to have that resistor there? Which two? And it's interesting. It's not the extruder fan. It's just the part cooling fans. I'm trying to remember which ones are which. Manta boards is a USB connection as opposed to true serial. Incorrect reference voltage. I think that's what Steve kind of implied when he was talking about this. Fan 0 and fan 0 are the same fans. So it's the bottom right and top left. I'll look into the resistor option. Is it just like, it's not a 0 ohm resistor, right? It's not a fuse. Anybody noted what value of resistor would be good? I can look it up. You don't have to. Walk me through it exactly. I have been on their Discord, and the most I've seen people talk about is just that they do end up cutting this wire or depinning it. I've got a bunch of heat shrink. I don't know the value, but it's doing 4.7 measures will make sense. Okay. Kick them on. So Steve did this. I thought it was a pretty good idea. Just drop a little bit of heat, shrink over top of that wire so it won't short out on anything. I probably should have just done it from the beginning, but I thought if anybody's mainly using my stream as like something to follow along, it can be frustrating when somebody just tells you, oh, go reference this video in order to find out how to do things. So, demonstrated the problem, showing a solution. Down Under Maker has noted another solution, so you can choose to do what you want to do. My water just fell over. I need to get my heat gun. 1 second. Turns out I need to find my heat gun, not get my heat gun. I've got a desktop one behind me, but I'd had to move the printer over here, and that'd be a little funky. Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely recommend people check out the Fysetc Discord. A lot of people have already kind of trodden this ground. I do have this. Not ideal, but it's also interesting they chose to use a 4-pin or 3 conductors. We're going to leave that back cover off for possible troubleshooting down the road. Just turn it back on. Fan 0 and fan 0. Yeah, the fans aren't turning immediately now. See how long after power on it takes for this guy to actually start showing up on the network. Probably not helping, just refreshing consistently. F5, F5, F5. I mean, the fact that it's a USB Wi-Fi means it probably needs to get to a certain level of boot before it makes the Wi-Fi connection. Taking a little while. It's showing on my router. Where is it? I didn't plug in the Ethernet cable. Jeez Louise. There's your problem. We have to get the Wi-Fi set up later. Is that any better? I believe I did it to the right two fans. Fan 0, fan 0. Oh, they have the fan plotted on here. Is that, do people typically do that? Like your MCU temp makes sense. The Toolhead board is no longer 80 degrees. I think we can go to the Voron initial startup checks. I know that I want to check the end stops. Well, it's sensorless, but check the Z at least. Trigger, open. There was some changes Steve made to the Toolhead board. I think it's head.cfg and the fans in here, which are tachometer. Well, it seems like that's already commented out. Where is it? Yeah, I don't see where any tachometer fans are actually enabled right now. I rewatched the stream Probably just commenting out the extra pins, yeah. I rewatched the streams and I remember you specifically having to comment out a line that said like tachometer. Maybe they updated the image since then. If that's already commented out, let me check the other. It is on the Toolhead board. I'm not seeing it. I don't know what Telegram is. Octo everywhere. Oh, maybe it was this one. Generic fan, aux fan, tachometer pin. What is the aux fan connected to? Should have paid more attention. Which one of these is aux fan? Let's go see some initial setup. Verify temperature. Whoa. A little bit over room temp, but and start spinning immediately. Heats up to 50 very quickly. I believe this is a 70 watt bed heater. So it should be a little bit quicker than the typical one is 65. Let me double check that. Watchful eye on this. Yeah, I don't like all this stuff being on here. I don't really need all that much. Hello, Ansel Johnson, welcome. Thanks for hopping in. I think I saw your comments recently on one of the previous streams, maybe. Heats up to 50. Cool down. Let's get out of here. What's the wattage on the bed? Why are their images all smushed like this on their product listing? Very strange. I thought I recalled this being a higher wattage heated bed. But they don't seem to note it anywhere on here. Renovik, how are all your builds and such going? Everything's cooling down. This fan is spinning. Verify cooling fans. The extruder fan heated up. The MCU fan heated up. These fans are both spinning. They're actually relatively quiet. Like I can hear them, but once it's enclosed, I don't think it's going to be too loud. Stepper buzz time. My Ender 3 was working great for robotic sprints, got 30K recommended accels. Wow. For the x-axis, only 8K for the y though. Are you on Danger Klipper? Or I forget what the new name is, where you can actually separate the x and the y, or do they have to be limited by whatever the y is? Alex Moreno, welcome. It's a nice color scheme, thank you. It was kind of inspired by the character Genji in Overwatch. I don't know if you are familiar. I guess Marvel Rivals is the big game right now. But yeah, the green, the gray, and black kind of came from his default skin a little bit. He decided to add rubber feet to the y-axis to improve rigidity, but required me to move the motherboard, so I'm redoing all the wiring. And your laser cutting panel's nice. For mounting the electronics. Sweet. Never-ending projects. Stepper buzz. I can never quite remember how things go, so let's do Z first. Right. Stepper Z, excuse me. And hopefully you guys will be able to see it. Yeah. Looks like it went down first in the positive direction. Let's do stepper Y. So that went clockwise. I think that's correct. And stepper Z or X. That went clockwise as well. You don't have Danger Clipper, so you're running 8K for outer perimeters. Gotcha. You gave me the confidence to dive into the deep end streaming Voron kit builds along with your GitHub documentation. I got a format kit on the way now. It'll first, when it comes, you're excited. Congrats, man. Is Ansel Johnson your channel? Definitely. Are we on any of the same? Any of the same discords? You know, a lot of discords like Steve and Modbot allow people to do a self-promotional post. So when you stream, you can post on there, and if anybody happens to be, you know, wanting to watch, you can get some folks watching. So definitely let me know. And I love watching people in the background when I'm doing other stuff. Lots of more parts for your Ender 5. Need to design the Z-axis parts to source panels, but also considering getting a long shaft 2504 steppers. Okay, for the, are you gonna run those at, those aren't 48 volt steppers, are they? I think everything went correctly. The X and the Y both rotated clockwise first. Move down and back up. Extruder, we can grab a piece of filament. Boop, boop, boop. Can we grab a piece of filament? And some side cutters. Just get that down into the mesh. This should be extruder. It went down first. Can you guys actually see that moving? Maybe not all that well. So that looks good. You can run them at 48, but you have 2209s and 24-volt power supply. 5160s are expensive. Yeah, they are. Know what I thought about it though, might be nice to have people who know more listening. It is definitely helpful to have people listening to help you out. I've had Steven here, just people, you know, helping me when I do really, really stupid stuff. It's really, really helpful and fun. It makes the time go by a lot faster. Maybe not as efficient as in terms of building, but it's pretty fun. What's next in the initial startup list? So we've got movement on the X, Y, and Z. There's some default stall guards set up in there. I checked my in-stop. We've got what do you call it? Centerless on the X and Y. So I guess I will sort of just send it and then have my hand on the emergency stop button. Not bad. A little harsh on the Y. Everything home correctly. Things seem a-okay. Anybody notice anything that I couldn't see from that front angle? I want to make sure that chain looks okay the next time I send it home. I haven't had much time to work on my printer because I bought it to my makerspace, so I only have 30 minutes a day to work on it. I'm going to say 30 hours, but also have robotics, which is taking all of my time after school. So are you in a robotics team, or is it kind of like a personal class? Yeah, I don't like all this craziness in the temperature traces. Like the fan turning on and off. I've never really put fans in here. I guess I can take it out through the UI. Where is that? Isn't there a way to turn off some of these? Oh, don't worry about it now. FRC, okay, cool. It's a pretty big team. Do you feel like you're actually able to kind of get a good amount of experience working on stuff? Everything homed well, I think. Let me do a home and just see what that looks like. I'm gonna probably need to play with the stall guard on the Y. Seems a little harsh, so I might tune that in a little bit. But I guess their home macro doesn't move things back to offsets. Taking a look at the chain and the lead screw. Everything looks pretty good. I'm a design and lead strategy specialist, so you have a lot to do. Programming CAD is coming from robotics. That's really cool. I wish we had robotics. We had like technical education class, but we didn't have a robotics team when I was in high school. Everything's homing pretty well. Bed locating. I guess I would want to do some PID tuning. Now, I love the alignment pins on this guy. Makes it so easy to get that bed on. If you've ever had like a V0 heated up to 105 degrees and you slap it down and it doesn't get on there right and you gotta get your fingers really close to that heated bed, I just really like those alignment pins. I love the auto complete in here. You can just kind of heater equals extruder. What is the command? Oh, target. I thought there was a default. Maybe that would be silly though. Equals 220. College applications. Fun-ish. Have you been able to apply to any scholarships? Got that first heat smell. It heats up very, very quickly. Also has LEDs on the tool head to indicate when it's heating, it seems. So every single time it goes back up to 100, a little LED comes on the back, which is interesting. Back had to make the kid lunch. Gotta have that. How old are they? Can they be making lunch themselves soon? Can they be making you lunch soon? I can't remember how old I was, but my mom showed me how to like ground hamburger meat, and then she was like, "All right, you're cooking the pasta, the tacos, the hamburger helper." I was like, "No, I just wanted to be able to make food for myself." 3 and 1, so no time soon. I can take this filament out. So far, so good on pretty much everything. I think we can grab some of our PTFE tubing and get it set up into be able to actually extrude some filament. Let's save that config. Am I gonna have that same problem Steve did where they broke it out? Yep. Daggone it. So they have the extruder PID values in here. And when you try to save the config, it won't do it in here. So I think I need to cut it. Focus on getting into good colleges. That's 6 different 4 to 6 person teams. Cool. So what do I want to do to move this into the main print? Save and close, then go into printer dot, on extruder. The new mainsail I noticed has a little shortcut bar on the side so you can get to different sections easily. Definitely want to get that in there. And then extruder, and then paste in my PID stuff. Save and restart. We're on Klipper version 12. Almost back down to room temperature. Let's do the bed while we wait for that. Let's do 105. Is it going to be called like heat bed, or is it just going to be bed? Heater bed. Heater bed. Heater equals heater bed. It's like stepper equals stepper X. I guess that makes sense. $30 by $30" robots versus 10 by 10" robots. Are you guys using like Jetson boards from NVIDIA, Ringvic? I kind of helped sponsor a local FRC team. I think they were, I can't remember their number, but they were the Copperheads. And we donated some old Jetson boards that they were playing around with. Heater bed's not slow, but it's not super, super fast like an AC bed. Switched to orange pies last year. Okay, interesting. I'm trying to remember what they did the year that we helped. We were like a sponsor of the company I work for. I think that was the year with like these piratey type ships with balls that they had to like stack and try to steal from another team. That first heated bed smell, hot silicone. I should probably get this view so I can have a camera up on it as well. There's not much to see though. And hide chat so you guys can see where I've been typing in stuff and getting it wrong and then correcting it. But I do like that there's pretty much autocomplete in here now. So you don't have to know exactly what every single command is called. Little quality of life stuff like that is really, really helpful for just being able to do stuff fast, not have to memorize the entire Klipper reference, guide, not have to bring it up for stuff all the time. So we do have some upgrades we can do to the system. Octo Everywhere, I don't really care about all that much. Moonraker, not too far behind. Just one commit behind on mainsail. Is that right? Maybe it'll change after I do this. Good old PID. I guess getting the spool holder set up would probably be good. Which is where? Did I not print that out? I've got my door, so I'm going to put a hinged door on the back as opposed to the regular back panel. These hinges out for the top hat. There is this guy that somebody designed. It's a stealth burn style chin that you can put on there and put a NeoPixel in. I thought about putting that in there, but I'm not sure. One of my cameras went out. No input. Uh-oh. You are not plugged in was the problem. So it's gonna have to charge for a while. So we got no rear camera for a little while. Sounds like the PID might be done. No, not quite. Still cycling. You guys hear the music at all? Turn it up a little bit. I'm using backing tracks, which is run by a guy, Epos Fox. Really cool guy. Talk to him a lot. He does a whole lot of content around streaming. How many cycles does it do by default? Takes so long, gosh. I still feel like PID and temp controls is somewhere. Klipper might be behind Marlin a little bit. I've always been more confident with the PID tuning in Marlin. I remember I had an old MKS board in that TiVo Tornado, and the PID would fail a bunch because apparently that board just had a pretty noisy VREF, I guess, for the thermistor. And it would just fail over and over and over again. You could fix it with a small capacitor. But yeah, Marlin never had any trouble doing a PID tune on that board, and Klipper just seemed to not like it whatsoever. Music is super quiet. Hey, M Snow, I can turn it up a bit. I don't want it to be like overpowering. But we're making our way through the kind of first time startup, initial startup stuff that Voron recommends. PID tuning the beds. We don't have an inductive probe, Z and stop. I need to do the bed calibration, I guess, next. But I typically like to do some of that with the heated. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter too much. I bumped the music by a scotch, one notch. Okay, so that finished. We can save config. And then the hot end, I gotta admit, this kind of bamboo style hot end heats up really, really fast. Target 220, extruder, go. I actually believe that the FormBot kit has switched over to this exact same hot end, which I kind of showed in the product offering. So I think it's like the Triangle Labs TZ something or another. They call it a Sailfish, but it's got like a bamboo style ceramic plus metal heater block. It's like a ceramic strip on a metal heater block. And it will definitely not be the bottleneck in terms of this thing getting up to printing temperatures. Always going to be making sure the temperature gets up to like 40-ish is usually where I start start prints on this. They'll pass and stick pretty well at 35. But on both my V0s, I kind of preheat, let it soak for a little while, and get up to about 40 degrees. And they'll get up to 50-ish sometimes in the middle of a long print, but oh, that's already done. Man, those cycles were so fast. Save config, does it work this time? Yes, it does. Okay, I'm going to make sure that our X and Y first, okay. I'm gonna send this up to like 20. I'm gonna super tighten the bed down. Just to make sure we don't crash. Hey Cyber Jack 2K, I did mine with nozzle near the bed by 2 millimeters mainly, as the air would be hitting same way. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do more PID tunes in the future. I just kind of want to get it set up to do some initial PLA printing while the panels are off. I figured that's more exciting than watching me peel plastic off of acrylic. I'll still do that on stream, but I don't know, it's not the funnest part of the build for me. Go to 60, 60. Send this up to 5. 4, 3, 2. I'm going to loosen the two Z-rail stops. While I send this up to 0, just in case they need a little bit of extra room. Yeah, it pushed them up by about a millimeter. Feder from 3D Print SOS actually has a modded version of these Z-rail stops that makes sure that that moves it up a little bit, but make sure that you have clearance. They look like little mushroom guys. But we're at 0. We're way too close to the bed plate. Let's do a bed screw adjust. I use the feeler gauge. I picked this up when I got my first printer, and I've just kind of gotten used to what it should feel like. Piece of paper obviously works pretty well for this. I barely adjusted it, so I'm just going to hit accept. And this is surprisingly close. So far on those two. This one's pretty far. Yeah, exactly what I found. That feels pretty good right in the middle. Again, I'm going to do all this over again with everything heated up to get everything dialed in, but I'm just trying to get it to a decent spot. So maybe we can push some PLA. I don't have all of the pieces of the spool holder, but I do have freestanding one. And I need to pull out some PLA, which I haven't printed in a little while. Where is my Capricorn cutter? Cut off a little bit. Stick it in there. Oh. Now this is ABS. I don't like yellow. Doesn't show up on camera very well. What is this? Telugu white. I just knocked over my trash can. Look, shouldn't even be over there. We're gonna push a little bit of plastic today. I don't know that we'll get a print done. Maybe we can do the rotation distance calibration. For anybody who wasn't here earlier, we are not going to do the normal filament path and filament runout sensor on this printer. I've got this guy. It's my Orbiter mod. So it's the Irby mod from Maple Leaf Makers combined with a Orbiter filament runout sensor back here. So that's going to go on the back to give us a nice short run up to the print head. But for now, we're just going to kind of do this in a little bit of a hacky way. This thing heats up really, really fast. I'm impressed. Compared to even my Rappy though, I think it could challenge that. Do 100 millimeters. And I need to move the bed down. I guess the macro for homing Z has an automatic home of X and Y. What do they recommend print temperature on this? 205 to 230. All right, 200. But hey, that shoots pretty well. What else do they have in the initial startup? Bed leveling. Go back to sleep here, up in a few hours. You're in the UK. Well, thanks for hopping in for a little while. I'll try to give a little bit more notice the next time I'm streaming. I announced it a little bit before, like 2 minutes before I go on. But the more the welcome, the more the merrier. Hop in anytime I'm on, and always willing to chat, talk about projects, share my knowledge, and learn from other folks. So see you, Cyberjack. Don't need belt tilt adjust. Don't need quad gantry level. Z offset adjustment. Kind of just did that. I'll do that with a live print eventually. Extruder calibration E-steps. Oh. So I usually use Andrew Ellis's. print tuning guide. I don't want to do the whole thing on stream today, but we can do the extruder calibration. If you guys haven't seen this, it's a pretty great way to go. I use a combination of this plus Orca Slicer to kind of get my printers tuned in. And if you really like kind of the nitty gritty esoteric why and how and very opinionated print tuning process, Ellis's guide is like really, really great in that regards. The new Super Slicer stuff launches next week or so. I'm not very up to date on that. So he recommends taping at 120 millimeters. This ruler unfortunately doesn't start at 0. The Voron ruler does. I'll get a piece of tape. Add the tape at 120. Maybe if I can get this added to Orca Slicer, we will go ahead and try to print a Voron cube or first layer tune. Yeah, there is a little bit of kind of funkiness trying to get Ellis's tuning guide stuff to work in Orca, since it's derived around Super Slicer. That's why I kind of use some of the built-in Orca stuff that does some similar stuff. Like they make their PA adjust, their pressure advance really similar to Andrew's line test, if I'm not mistaken, as opposed to like the tower or the where it writes it out on the print sheet. So M83 relative, and then this guy. So my understanding is he has this going at such a slow feed rate that you don't have to worry as much about doing it hot. He has a little note in here about whether you should do it hot or cold. If you have something like a Revo, you can just take the heater core off and do it cold straight through the Revo. But if you kind of heat things up enough and run it slow enough so that you're not going to be restricted by the flow of the hot end or the nozzle, he believes that it doesn't make too much of a difference. And I'm kind of the same mind. So you can kind of see it's extruding very, very slowly. And I'm going to do this again after I get the final filament, path set up. I always kind of recommend that if you make any major changes to your filament path, even sometimes your spool holder, if you go to like a bearinged one versus kind of one that sits on PTF or something like that, I've noticed that I can redo my E-steps or rotation distance and get a slightly different value. So I think this is done. Nope, still going. I think we're going to be slightly over. That's looking like way less than 20 millimeters. It's done. It's at 14. So the actual, I know there's a calculator on here somewhere. 120 minus 14 equals 106. Is the actual. We need to go fetch our old rotation distance. Just 40. I'll save that for prosperity. Current times 100 divided by actual. So new equals 40 times 106 divided by 100. Times 40 equals 42.4. Why didn't you copy? Do you guys have any special ways of doing this that makes it a little bit easier? You don't have to do as much math. I know there's like calculators online. I'm surprised there's not something built into slicers, to be honest. Take our ruler, put it at 120 again. But then you can just enter the numbers with the divide and multiply. Oh, you can do the equation in the config file. That would be something I did not realize. So will it like evaluate it and save it and then overwrite it? So like say this is off and it ends up being 102 divided by 100. It'll evaluate that? That would be dope. Probably save a bit of time. M83 and extrude. Then you could just kind of leave the equation, or yeah, if they didn't do it, then you could just leave the equation in there and swap out the actual and old. Black and spool. This is Elegoo PLA. I got a Slick Deal alert about it being on sale a while ago, and I just picked up like 6 spools for super cheap. I think it ended up being $10 per kilogram. That looks like it's shorter. Did I go the wrong direction? I'm prone to getting stuff wrong at 12:20 a.m. So. We have 14 again. That doesn't seem right. Oh my gosh. You guys got to help me out here when I do stuff silly like that. This one's stepper X. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's in the other file again. Gosh, that's messing me up. I need to change. Like seriously, I need you guys to help keep me in line when I'm doing silly stuff like that. So it must be in head. So let's try what Renovik was saying. So comment that out. Well, they don't have the command to duplicate. It was 106 divided by 100. Is that what you were thinking, Renovik? The way I did it? Which one is this? Head? Let me just do it in a calculator. 106 divided by 100 times 21.56. 22.85. I did have a little tool printed out to help do that a little bit quicker, but when I moved, I kind of just didn't unpack it. Man, that Hotend heats up fast. My Orca slicer on this machine is going to be crazy out of date. Can I duplicate this guy and just change its physical printer? Oh, you know what? I haven't opened up Orca Slicer down here since... I don't think this is logged into my Bamboo Labs account since all that stuff happened with Bamboo and Feversoft. So I don't think it's... It's not getting my my presets pulled down. That's something I hadn't thought about. I think this is done. That looks to be closer to 20 millimeters. And it is maybe 19. Oh, and then it moved. What is... Oh, it copied the protocol twice. Add primitive cube. Scale it, non-uniform. Let's go 105, 5.2. And we're gonna try our first print. Is there anything I'm forgetting? I need to check the... Let's start Hotend. I think that should work Let's start printing. PLA. You're a little far away. Well, it's actually sticking. Definitely a little far away. I'm gonna reclean this bed sheet. Actually, that's not bad. No, too far away. Kind of a little too messed up to baby step. I need to clean this bed sheet a little bit. But it's laying down okay. There might be some pressure advance. I think it's just this bed sheet needs to get cleaned. I need to clean it with a little soap and water. While that's going, I can take a look at the and see where we mount the Irby. Get that filament path set up. So it's lined up at the top of this guy. The long ways. Not like this. And 3x10. And now that's just going to poop. Kind of manhandled this build plate way too much after I initially cleaned it. So we're gonna mount this orbiter and maybe set up the filament path, and I think that'll be a good time to call it. And then next stream I can get that build plate cleaned up. Maybe we can do something like a Voron cube. Maybe a little bit more tuning, panels, Tophat, and the build to be done. Ah! This top screw screws into the back, and I think I can just pop it on there and then slide this guy in afterwards. Oh, there's the filament holder, spool holder. You can many times use ChatGPT or any other AI for reference. Sorry, you were behind on the stream. Are you talking about for the extruder rotation distance? That would make sense. I think I can trust ChatGPT for that. There's no way it's going to hallucinate something like that, right? I think I can put this PSU cover protector on soon. But pretty happy. The config went pretty well. I need to update all of the things on the printer in terms of the versions. I don't know if the toolhead or MCU will need to be updated. They didn't look like they were a major version behind, but ideally I think you want all of those on the same build number. If I do update Klipper, I need 2 tools. Yeah, a lot of source data can be easily referenced now for Klipper and other open source stuff. That's good to know. I know Taylor Canuck Maker was using some AI stuff. What was he using? Is it the new Chinese model to answer questions about like 3D printing and stuff? Now if I loosen this off a little bit, we can drop this guy in through the top, I think. The wires will go directly into the back panel area. Let's heat the Hotend back up to 215, 230, doesn't really matter. DeepSeek, yes. Couldn't come to my mind. I'm playing with some home server stuff. I've got so many spare computers and motherboards and CPUs. I've been playing around with the idea. I've got like a half rack. So I was thinking about doing some stuff. I know you can run some of this stuff on like a Raspberry Pi, but I've got the computer hardware to do some slightly more advanced stuff. So I'd like to play with that a little bit. Running it, you know, on your own, you don't have to pay for all of the usage costs. Man, it's already heated up to 230. That's so fast. What's the max hot temperature on the Hotend? This would be a real good small prototype forge. It is great for rapid prototyping. I think it's 300. Or aren't you finding anything on this page? No! 260, that's not all that hot. I thought this was closer to 300. They've got it listed at 260 and 120 on the bed. So it probably wouldn't be good for some of the more boutique-y, high-end filaments. The extrude, no. Extrude 10. Retract 150. A decent looking tip. All right, let's home Z. I don't like that it automatically homes X and Y when I'm just trying to home Z. Yeah, obviously it's got a mini stealth burner on it. It's their own variation of the mini stealth burner, but you can pop in any hot end that you like. I've got a Rapido sitting around. This heats up really fast, I do have to say. I'm liking it for that. Let's turn off motors. Move it out here to the furthest extreme. So our nice short filament path will come out of this guy and just need to be able to reach over to here. And then they give you this sleeving, but then they also have some printed wire guides. So I don't know if they expect you to use both or just one, but they give you these. Printing them out in a couple different colors. Just gonna see which ones I like the most. So maybe you're supposed to put the sleeving on after, I don't know. Its build space for the area that it takes up is really good, especially if you were going to stack a bunch of them kind of fixed into a cabinet. Yeah, I've got two over there. I've got the format's actually on the floor because I'm putting a dragon burner on it in this space, and then the LDL. So I'll have three on that one shelf. For 120 cubed, it's less than 300 millimeters wide. I mean, 240 millimeters or 24 centimeters by 24. Basically, half the build plate volume of the outside dimensions. That's really good. How far does this go? Not very far at all. I'll leave it a little bit longer than I probably need it initially. I've got plenty of 3ID PTFE tube, or this might even be PTFE. I think it's like, yeah, it needs to be shorter. And I have to account for the longest and the shortest. Another inch. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make some adjustments and kind of fine tune that. Maybe it just needs to come up further away from the inlet of the Irby. It's interesting. You have to have this a certain length in order to kind of have everything match up. Yeah, I've got to fine tune quite a bit of stuff. I don't know. I might not go with these. Checking the mic. Thanks for letting me know that. Yes, so I was talking about we need to get this guy wired up. It requires 5 volts, ground, and 2 input pins. I'll figure out what I want to do with this guy, but basically the spool holder will sit here. Filament will run into another PTFE tube that comes out of here up through there, and I like that a whole lot better than it coming down through the middle of the bay and down and out into this foot. So I actually didn't hook up this filament run out sensor switch, so we're going to be using this guy instead. It's a smart switch, and you can just press this eject button. It'll automatically heat up, back out the filament. Then you only have to pull it, like, you know, whatever that is, I don't know, 6-8 inches out, swap your filament, push it back in. When it goes in, it'll automatically detect it, start heating up the hot end again, and then eventually, once you have it fed down to the gears, it'll automatically purge. So that's the plan for that guy. We need to do panels, Tophat, and I think that's pretty much it, besides the first print and some tuning. I might go through the Klipper guide. I'll probably go through a lot of Andrew Ellis's print setup guide, do pressure advance, and you know, I can do some of that on stream. Some of it seems like it might be a little bit boring. If people who watch this probably in the as a VOD, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see kind of a walkthrough of the whole kind of tuning process. I'd like to probably get some ideas from you guys in terms of what you like to do, but you know, I can kind of share. I do a mixture of this and the Orca slicer. I think Australian Maker was mentioning that the Super Slicer print tuning stuff is going to come out soon, so that's maybe something I can take a look at. But we're pretty far along. I think I would have liked to gotten the first print, like a Voron cube, done today, but I'm pretty happy with how far we've gotten. The config was pretty easy. Flashed it with Bellina Etcher, got it onto the chip. I did use a hardwired connection to get this set up, so I'm gonna have to go in and manually do the Wi-Fi instructions, but they have that in their guide in terms of exactly what you need to do. Doesn't seem like it's all that hard to just SSH in there and run the commands to get your SSID and passphrase set up. But yeah, I gotta say the kit, I'm happy with the config and wiring electronics setup. I love the board and how compact it is and how easy it is to wire compared to both of my other two V0.2s, which have 2 boards in there, the SKR Pico and the Raspberry Pi. This is so much more cleaner, a whole lot more straightforward. I think less to possibly mess up. I didn't really check on the display up here, but it seems like it's working pretty well. Again, I love the bed alignment tool, or bed alignment screws that it's got on the bed. It makes it really easy to get that snapped in, not snap your fingers or burn your hands on the bed. I'm going to be doing a couple mods, like a hinged rear enclosure door instead of the standard one, which screws it down permanently, just so I can get in and out of there when I'm doing stuff like wiring this guy up. And yeah, I think that's about it. A pretty successful stream, I'd say. A couple little wonky things in terms of the audio. Thanks for everybody for letting me know about that. But yeah, gonna try to get back to this probably before the end of the week. I try to stream around other kind of Voron and 3D printing creators, but there's so many, you know, cool creators out there. It's kind of hard to find a time slot where somebody else isn't already streaming. So I'm sure Zombie's probably streaming right now. But thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everybody who watches this in the future. Hopefully this serves as a little bit of a guide for anybody building this kit on this newest revision, as to some stuff to kind of look ahead to figure out and some stuff to not do. Like, you know, don't change your X rotation distance when you're trying to tune your extruder calibration. But yeah, this has been fun. Thanks for Steve, who gifted 5 subs. Really appreciate that. I'll be tuning into his next box turtle stream once he's doing that, and I'll have to throw some subs in the chat as well. But Yule, if you're still in here, thanks for chatting with me. We had Renovic, Down Under Maker, I said Australian Maker, I meant Down Under Maker, and a few other folks. So thanks again for tuning in. I will see you in the next stream. Peace.